The boardroom felt suffocating as I watched Marcus strut around the table, waving papers like they were winning lottery tickets. 10 years of building my company from the ground up, and he thought he could take it all with a few forged signatures. You should see your face, he laughed, loosening his designer tie. Did you really think I'd let you run this forever? A woman with a high school diploma playing CEO. My name is Rachel Chen, and at 42, I was watching my husband attempt to steal everything I'd built. The irony? When I met Marcus 12 years ago, he was a junior accountant drowning in student debt. I was the owner of a small but growing tech company, looking for someone to help manage the books. He seemed perfect then, smart, ambitious, and supportive of my vision. He understood numbers in a way I never did, and I trusted him completely. That was my first mistake. The board already approved the transfer of power. Marcus continued, sliding documents across the polished mahogany table. Your signatures on everything. Really, you should thank me for making it so easy. No messy legal battles. I picked up the papers, examining the forged signatures he'd somehow managed to create. My hand didn't shake. My voice didn't waver. Because Marcus had made one crucial error. He thought I was just another self-made entrepreneur who'd gotten lucky. He had no idea I'd been planning for this moment for 3 years. It started with a lipstick stain. Not on his collar. Marcus was too careful for that. It was on a financial report he'd handed me, a smudge of red that matched his secretary's signature shade. That night, I started digging through our company records, and what I found made my blood run cold. Small discrepancies in the books, unauthorized transfers, board meetings I supposedly attended while I was out of the country. But instead of confronting him, I did something else. I started buying shares in our company through shell corporations, using the money I'd set aside for our anniversary trip to Paris. Each time Marcus met with his lawyer, thinking he was orchestrating my downfall, I was quietly increasing my ownership stake. By the time he made his move, I owned 80% of the company through various entities he knew nothing about. I'm giving you a week to clear out your office, Marcus said, checking his Rolex, the one I'd bought him for his last birthday. Be grateful I'm not having security escort you out now. I stood up, smoothing my skirt. That's very kind of you, Marcus. I'll need that time to gather my things. He frowned, clearly thrown by my calm demeanor. That's it? No fighting back? No tears? Why would I cry? I asked, picking up my briefcase. Everything happens for a reason, right? As I walked out of the boardroom, my heels clicking against the marble floor, I could feel his eyes on my back. He was probably congratulating himself, thinking he'd finally won, that the woman who gave him everything was walking away with nothing. I pulled out my phone and made a call. Sandra, it's Rachel. Remember that contingency plan we discussed? It's time. Sandra, my lawyer for the past 20 years, had helped me set up the shell corporations. She'd warned me about Marcus 3 years ago when she noticed the first signs of his deception. Men like him, she'd said, they always think they're the smartest person in the room. Use that. And I had. Every step of his plan to take over my company had played right into my hands. The next morning, I arrived at the office early, watching employees filter in with their coffee cups and concerned glances. News of Marcus's takeover had spread quickly. I could see the pity in their eyes, the woman who built everything, now losing it to her husband. By noon, Marcus had moved his things into my office. My family photos were already in a box by the door, replaced by his pretentious art pieces and that hideous modern desk he'd been eyeing for months. He even changed the security codes, probably worried I'd try to steal client files or company secrets. I've scheduled a company-wide meeting for this afternoon, he announced, lounging in my chair. Time to inform everyone about the changes in leadership. I nodded, continuing to pack my belongings. Of course. Will you be keeping Sarah on as CFO? Sarah, he laughed. No, I'm bringing in my own team. Can't have your loyal subjects hanging around, causing trouble. Sarah had been with me since the beginning, when we were working out of my garage with nothing but 2 laptops and a dream. She was also the only other person besides Sandra who knew about my contingency plan. The company meeting was set for 3 p.m. in the main conference room. As employees filed in, Marcus stood at the front, practically glowing with self-satisfaction. I sat quietly in the back, next to Sarah, who was gripping her tablet so hard her knuckles had turned white. As you've probably heard, Marcus began, there have been some changes in ownership. I know change can be scary, but I assure you, under my leadership, this company will reach new heights. That's when Sarah stood up. Actually, Mr. Chen, there's been a slight update to the ownership structure that you should be aware of. Marcus frowned. I don't remember asking for your input, Sarah. In fact, consider this your. Perhaps, I interrupted, standing up as well. You should take a look at these documents first. Sandra chose that moment to walk in, carrying a stack of papers that made Marcus's earlier display look like a post-it note. Behind her came two members of the board. The real ones, not the stand-ins Marcus had used to approve his takeover. What's this? Marcus demanded, his confidence wavering for the first time. This, Sandra said, her voice carrying across the now silent room, is documentation showing that Firetech Industries, Summit Ventures, and Highland Capital, 3 of your largest shareholders, are actually owned by your wife. The color drained from Marcus's face as Sandra continued laying out documents. Together, these entities control 80% of the company's shares, which means any decisions about leadership need to be approved by the majority shareholder. That's impossible, Marcus sputtered. I vetted every major shareholder personally. Did you? I asked, walking to the front of the room, or did you just see what you expected to see? A bunch of impressive-sounding investment firms that seemed eager to support your plans. The room was dead silent as realization dawned on his face. Every step he'd taken to seize control had been built on a foundation of lies. Lies that were now crumbling beneath him. You can't do this, he hissed, grabbing my arm as I passed him. I'm your husband. I pulled away, my voice steady. Actually, as of this morning, you're not. The divorce papers were filed an hour ago. You might want to check your email. The collective gasp from our employees was almost comical. Marcus reached for his phone with shaking hands, only to find his access to the company's servers had already been revoked. Security will escort you out, I said, nodding to the 2 guards who had appeared at the door. Don't worry about packing up. We'll send your things to your new address. Oh, and Marcus, you might want to check the prenup you signed. The infidelity clause is particularly interesting. As Marcus was led out, still protesting, I turned to address the stunned employees. I owe you all an explanation and you'll get one. But first, we have work to do. Sarah, could you pull up the quarterly projections? The room slowly came back to life, but nothing was the same. The whispers had already started. How had I known? How long had I been planning this? But more importantly, what kind of leader orchestrates something like this? They were about to find out. The aftermath of Marcus's removal sent shockwaves through the industry. Within hours, news had spread about how the wife of a would-be corporate usurper had orchestrated one of the most elegant takedowns in recent business history. I spent the next week in meetings reassuring clients and partners that the company was stable. But something interesting happened. Instead of causing panic, the incident actually strengthened our position. Clients who had been hesitant to work with us suddenly showed renewed interest. Your handling of the situation, one CEO told me, showed exactly the kind of strategic thinking we want in a partner. Marcus, meanwhile, was discovering just how thoroughly I'd outmaneuvered him. The prenup he'd signed included a clause about infidelity that not only protected my personal assets but required him to repay every penny he'd earned during our marriage if he was caught cheating. The evidence I'd gathered over the years, the hotel receipts, the secret bank accounts, the photos his secretary had been all too happy to share once she realized he'd been playing her too, was overwhelming. He's trying to negotiate, Sandra told me during one of our daily briefings, offering to drop any claims to company assets if you waive the prenup penalties. I considered it for a moment, then shook my head. No deals. He needs to learn that actions have consequences. The company thrived in the following months. Without Marcus's secret draining of resources, our profits increased by 40%. The toxic culture he'd fostered among certain executives cleared up once they realized their protector was gone. One morning, about 6 months after the takeover attempt, I arrived at the office to find an envelope on my desk. Inside was a letter from Marcus's mother, Margaret. I always knew you were smart, she wrote, but I never realized just how capable you were. Marcus told me everything. Not willingly, but the truth has a way of coming out. I want you to know that while he's my son, I understand why you did what you did. He needed this lesson, even if he doesn't see it yet. I folded the letter and tucked it away in my desk. Margaret had always been kind to me, even when her son wasn't. Her words meant more than she probably realized. The real changes came in how I ran a company. The experience had taught me valuable lessons about trust and vigilance. I implemented new oversight measures, created a more transparent corporate structure, and established a foundation to help women in business protect themselves from similar situations. 1 year after Marcus's failed takeover, I stood in the same conference room where everything had come to a head. We were celebrating our most successful quarter ever, and I had an announcement to make. As some of you know, I began, looking at the faces of people who had stood by me through everything. We're launching a new initiative today. The Phoenix program will provide resources, legal support, and mentorship to women entrepreneurs who find themselves in vulnerable positions. Because sometimes the biggest threats to our success come from those closest to us. Sarah, now our COO, was the first to applaud. The rest of the room followed suit, and I felt a warmth that had nothing to do with victory or revenge. This was about transformation, turning a painful experience into something that could help others. Marcus, last I heard, he was working as a junior accountant at a small firm in Denver, living in a studio apartment and driving the same car he had when I first met him. Sometimes karma has a perfect sense of irony. The company continues to grow, but more importantly, it grows the right way, with transparency, integrity, and a commitment to lifting others up rather than tearing them down. The shell corporations I created to protect myself from Marcus now fund programs that help other women protect themselves and their dreams. In the end, Marcus did teach me something valuable. Success isn't just about building something great, it's about being smart enough to protect it. He thought he could take everything from me, but instead he gave me the push I needed to become even stronger. Now, when people ask me about Marcus and the takeover attempt, I just smile and say, sometimes the best revenge is simply being prepared. Because while he was plotting to steal my company, I was learning the most important lesson in business. Trust is good, but documentation is better. The conference room where this all ended is still there, but I've had it renovated. The mahogany table where Marcus once strutted around with his forged documents has been replaced with a modern design that features a subtle phoenix pattern in the wood grain. It's a daily reminder that from the ashes of betrayal, something stronger can rise.
You can't seriously be planning to use the main entrance, my sister Diana sneered, gesturing to my worn laptop bag and simple blazer. This is the elevation. There are standards. I stood in front of Manhattan's newest luxury high-rise, its 60 stories of gleaming glass and steel piercing the autumn sky. My sister, resplendent in designer wear, had reluctantly agreed to meet me outside after I'd mentioned having news about my latest project. The service entrance is around back, she pointed, adjusting her Hermes scarf. Where the cleaning staff go in. I have a meeting here, I said quietly, checking my watch. 10 minutes until the board presentation that would change everything. A meeting? You. Diana laughed. Let me guess. Another one of your innovative proposals that no one wants to fund? Face it, Sarah, you're not cut out for real estate development. 5 years ago those words would have stung. Now they just made me smile. Actually, I'm here to see Miss Morgan. A doorman rushed forward, his eyes wide. We've been expecting you. The board is assembled in the penthouse conference room. Diana's perfectly sculpted eyebrows shot up. There must be some mistake. My sister's a small-time contractor. She doesn't. Sarah Morgan, the doorman confirmed, checking his tablet. Founder and CEO of Morgan Sustainable Development. The board has been eagerly awaiting your presentation. CO. Diana's voice rose an octave. But you work out of a home office. A home office that just closed a $2 billion development deal, I corrected gently. Would you like to join us for the announcement? Mom and Dad are already upstairs. The doorman held open the gleaming glass doors, revealing a marble lobby larger than my first apartment. Diana stood frozen as residents stopped to stare at us. Or rather, at me. But your clothes are chosen for comfort during 18-hour workdays, I finished. Designer labels don't impress sustainable energy investors. The elevator doors opened directly into the penthouse conference room, where New York's real estate elite sat waiting. Mom and Dad occupied chairs near the back, looking confused about why they'd been invited. Ms. Morgan, the board chairman stood. We're ready for the unveiling of the Morgan Innovation Tower. The what? Diana whispered, her voice faint. I stepped to the front of the room, pulling up the holographic display that would show my vision for transforming the elevation into the city's first zero-carbon luxury residence. For those who haven't heard, the chairman continued, Ms. Morgan's company has acquired controlling interest in the elevation, along with 6 other premium properties in Manhattan. Mom's coffee cup clattered against its saucer. Dad's face shifted from confusion to disbelief as the chairman kept speaking. The Morgan Innovation Tower will set new standards for luxury living, he announced. Led by the woman who's revolutionizing sustainable development across the country. Diana sank into a chair, her designer outfit suddenly seeming overdressed as board members focused on my presentation rather than her appearance. The building's new name goes up tonight, I said, pulling up the digital rendering. Along with the announcement of our complete sustainable retrofit. New name. Mom found her voice. But the elevation is the most prestigious. The chairman corrected. The Morgan Innovation Tower will make it look outdated. Your daughter's vision for sustainable luxury has attracted investors from around the world. I clicked to the next slide, showing the transformation that would begin tomorrow. Solar glass, vertical gardens, and a revolutionary energy system that would make the building self-sufficient. But Sarah doesn't even own property, Diana protested weakly. Sarah Morgan owns more premium real estate than anyone else in Manhattan, the chairman replied. She's been quietly acquiring buildings for years while developing her sustainable technology. Dad's face had gone pale as he realized his impractical daughter now owned the building he'd spent years bragging about living in. Now, I said, watching my family's expressions, shall we discuss the new residence requirements? I believe sustainable living commitments will be part of all new lease agreements. The room filled with enthusiastic nods from board members who'd seen the projected value increases my innovations would bring. Sometimes success doesn't wear designer labels. Sometimes it wears comfortable shoes and carries a worn laptop bag, quietly building an empire while others focus on appearances. The day was young and I had a skyline to transform. The presentation screen lit up with my company's latest acquisition figures. 7 luxury buildings in Manhattan, 3 in Chicago, and development rights for sustainable high-rises in 12 major cities. As you can see, I continued, ignoring Diana's audible gasp, Morgan's sustainable development isn't just changing one building, we're transforming the entire concept of luxury living. The returns on Ms. Morgan's previous projects, the chairman added, have averaged 300% above market rate. The waiting list for units in her Chicago development is 3 years long. Mom's hands shook as she reached for her water. But you work from home. From my smart home development lab, I corrected. Where we perfected the technology that's about to make the elevation obsolete. The holographic display shifted to show my building's new features. Photovoltaic glass that generated power while maintaining perfect views, vertical farms that would supply residents with organic produce, and an AI system that would make current, smart homes look primitive. Your rent will be adjusted accordingly, I added, watching Diana's face pale. Though current residents will have first right of refusal on the new leases, assuming they meet our sustainability requirements. Rent. Diana's voice cracked. But we're founding residents. We have rights. You have leases, I corrected gently, which are now held by my company. The same company you said would never succeed because I refused to dress the part of a real estate developer. The chairman smiled, pulling up more figures. Ms. Morgan's unorthodox approach has proven remarkably effective. While others focused on appearance, she focused on innovation. The results speak for themselves. The screen filled with headlines from financial papers. Morgan's sustainable development revolutionizes luxury market. Billion-dollar empire built on green technology. Sarah Morgan, the future of urban living. But you drive a hybrid, Dad protested weakly. An electric vehicle I helped design, I nodded. It's being released next quarter. The waiting list is already 6 months long. Diana stared at her designer handbag, probably calculating how many lease payments it could cover under the new rates. The building's sustainable requirements, I continued, pulling up the new lease terms, will include mandatory participation in our renewable energy program, commitment to zero waste practices, and support of our vertical farming initiative. And if we don't agree, someone called from the back, then you'll miss out on the most significant property value increase in Manhattan's history, the chairman replied. Ms. Morgan's previous buildings have appreciated 500% within 2 years of renovation. Mom's perfectly maintained composure cracked as she watched board members eagerly sign off on my plans. Her daughter, the one she'd criticized for not maintaining a professional image, was about to become her landlord. The Morgan Innovation Tower will be completed in 18 months, I announced, showing the construction timeline. Though the name change happens tonight, I believe you can see the installation crew arriving now. Everyone turned to the window, watching as workers prepared to mount enormous letters across the building's facade. My name would soon tower over the city skyline. But what about our status? Diana whispered. The elevation is known for being outdated, I finished. The Morgan Innovation Tower will set new standards for what luxury means in the modern age. Your status will come from being part of the future, not clinging to the past. The chairman stood, addressing the room. The future of luxury real estate isn't about exclusivity, it's about sustainability. Ms. Morgan understood this years ago, while the rest of us were focused on marble lobbies and designer labels. Dad looked down at his Italian leather shoes, probably remembering all the times he'd criticized my practical footwear. All those meetings you said you couldn't attend because you were working were board meetings, I nodded. With investors who cared more about my ideas than my outfit choices. The screen showed one final figure. My company's current market valuation. Diana's designer scarf slipped from her shoulders as she saw the number. Now, I said, checking my watch, shall we head downstairs? I believe the new signage is ready for unveiling. As the sun set over Manhattan, my name blazed to life across the building's facade in eco-friendly LED lights. Morgan Innovation Tower glowed against the darkening sky, visible from Central Park to the financial district. Diana stood in the crowd below, her designer outfit lost among the tech executives and sustainability investors who'd gathered for the unveiling. Mom and Dad lingered near the back, watching their impractical daughter command the attention of New York's elite. The first units will be available next spring, my assistant announced to the eager crowd. Priority will be given to residents committed to our zero-carbon lifestyle program. And current residents? Diana asked weakly. We'll need to reapply, I replied, scanning the property valuations on my tablet. Though I hear there's a lovely building on Fifth Avenue that still prioritizes designer labels over sustainable living. The crowd chuckled. My reputation for transforming outdated luxury into sustainable innovation had made me a darling of the investment world. No one cared that I wore last season's blazer. They cared that my last 3 buildings had tripled their property values. Sarah, Mom stepped forward, her voice small. All those times we criticized your choices taught me valuable lessons, I finished. Like how true luxury isn't about appearance, it's about impact. As cameras flashed and reporters gathered, I caught Diana eyeing the service entrance she'd tried to send me through earlier. Don't worry, I smiled. That door's being replaced with a renewable energy monitoring station. All entrances will be equal in the sustainable future.